It's come out that left-wing financier of all projects that hate America and Israel has been giving money to an organization that supports Hamas and their followers. Not a shock, is it? George Soros is maybe the most infamous self-hating Jew in world history.
Next to Chuck Schumer. Sorry. Didn't mean to cut you off there, but
except Soros has been at it longer. Schumer's in the same category. Truly,
true.
These are people. I'm a Jew, but it's like I believe in Jesus, but and then the but wipes out everything you said before. But
yep.
And
it's a big but.
Yeah, like Bertha Butt. You remember that rap song from the 70s or 80s, whenever that was. So George Soros, it turns out, has given over $1 million to a group whose job it is to support Hamas, the biggest terror group on planet Earth, who has slaughtered Jews and has absolutely publicly proclaimed they are not stopping until October 7th is every week. And George Soros, who says he's Jewish, or at least used to be, right up till the time he worked for the Nazis in Hungary in 1945, rounding up Jews and Jewish property. Yep. May he rot in hell forever for that.
And then he was so happy that he did it.
Right.
No regrets.
Actually, he said that on 60 Minutes.
Yep.
That was the happiest time of his life, working for the Nazis, killing and seizing Jewish property, including my family in Budapest in 1945. Now, there's a special place, where, down there for people like that, truly. Mm-hmm. So it turns out that George Soros, and for those of you that don't remember, this is his smiling face. He kind of reminds me of the Emperor in Star Wars, the super bad guy.
The Darth Sith Lord.
Yeah, 100%. Except
yes,
truly uglier, and that's without makeup. It turns out that he has been a mega donor to the Al-Mazan Center for Human Rights for 11 years. His own spokesperson for his Open Society Foundation said that Soros's ongoing support for Al-Mazan is something very, very important to him. And Al-Mazan is a well-financed initiative aiming to exert pressure on the United Nations to support the International Criminal Court to indict Israeli officials for their war crimes and their crimes against humanity, and on and on and on. The head of the group, Al-Mazan, is a Palestinian named Kamal El-Sharafi, and this guy has connections to many terror groups, and he literally was also announced that one of the people he works with at that organization, Jamal Mazar, is the new deputy head of the Popular Front for the Liberation of Palestine. That's a group that blows up planes. They released a statement, this is with Soros's money, condemning the Jewish state for having the audacity to retaliate against Hamas after what happened on October 7th.
Oh, my goodness.
Unbelievable.
Oh, my goodness.
And he also supports a group called Al-Haq, which is an Israeli designated terror organization, and he funds them too. How does this guy, Will Johnson, get a seat at every table? Like he's at the World Economic Forum. His people go to the UN. He's funding what amounts to insurrectionist communist groups all over the world. He's an evil, evil man. Well,
Barry, I think the answer to that question is how and why is because our world today has embraced evilness as something that's good. Let me put it this way, without saying any names. Let's say, remember the Summer of Love? You remember what happened during that time when it was all across the country and vehicles were getting set on fire and buildings were set on fire? This is just to give an example of what we're talking about here. And then all of a sudden, they create a statue of the criminal, right? So they create statues of criminals they elevate the criminal, saying that the criminal is the victim in all of the stuff. And then you have someone come across our southern border, should never be here in the first place. And you can't call that person an animal. You see, there's a pattern here. There's a pattern, exact same thing. That's the reason why they see what he's doing, talking about George Floyd, or, I said it, didn't I? George Soros, George Floyd. You see what George Soros is doing, and they see it as something very positive. Why? Because it goes against the natural order of things. It goes against reality.
I don't know what to say other than the man is evil. He makes no secret about his upset and his animosity towards capitalism, towards America, towards the West. He makes no apologies for it. He's a multi-billionaire. And he got rich over the years, largely betting, literally, against capitalism and the American dollar. And makes no secret about it. I mean, think about this. I made all this money off of a system that built the greatest country the world has ever known, with the most freedoms ever in world history.
Yep.
And I'm going to spend the rest of my life spending money destroying that country and everything it stands for. Do you have any insight? What goes through a man's mind like that?
Power, because I can to say that I have control. You know, there's some, I can't remember the name of some of these nations, but there's some of the nations where he is no longer allowed to set foot into those nations because he's basically crippled those nations. And because he did it to those nations, his goal is to do it to the United States of America, just to say that he is the one who has the power. He controls America. He controls the direction of this country. I'll never forget it, Barry. I remember when I lived in California, there was a video where he was at a dinner. And at this dinner, he was saying, this was before the 2020, and it was about 2018. He was at a dinner, and he said that Trump will not be president in 2020. He says he's not going to be president. And he also went on to say that, which didn't come to fruition, that Facebook would no longer exist. He said Facebook would no longer exist. And he said, I think he even said Google, if I'm not mistaken. But he said they won't exist, but they still exist. The only thing that did actually happen was that President Trump is not in the White House. That's the only thing that did happen. And he, along with other people, is behind it. He has the ties with Hillary Clinton, the whole fake dossier through the FISA courts, which is really interesting how these establishment Republicans are upset right now because of the FISA courts, right? So his only goal is to tell the world that he has the power to do whatever it is that he wants to do.
Well, you know, it's scary in that some people were saying, well, you know, he's really old and he's going to pass, and then this is all going to end. His kids have taken over the Open Society Forum, and they're spending money, or will be spending his money like crazy. They're young, they're in their 30s, and they literally are going to carry on his, shall we say, his evil ways for decades to come. To come.
Yeah.
It's really, really sad that you make money off the backs of a system that you turn around and want to destroy.
And you know, there's some things that he's connected with that we cannot even bring up or even discuss because we're on certain platforms. There's things that he's connected with that's going to affect that did affect us in the past and will more likely affect us again towards the end of this year. You know, the month before December, if I can just say that. If you get my drift.
Uh-huh. Well, may he get what he has coming. And the more you and I and others of our kind expose where his money is going and who the true evil is behind these decisions. We've talked about it 100 times. Every single one of these prosecutors from coast to coast in America, letting out hardened criminals, murderers, rapists, extortionists, assault and battery people, robbers. Those are Soros-backed DAs because he doesn't believe in there ought not to be, incarceration because it disaffects or disproportionately affects minorities. He's the man and the money behind the insanity that has crippled many of our inner cities. I want people to remember that when they hear that name. In case you forgot, and it's not clear in your head, this is the guy we're talking about. Please remember that face next time you hear about George Soros.